Hey, I want to welcome everyone to our first of many interviews I'll be doing for the Kansas Progressive Forum. Today we have Zack Pistora. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Mr. Pistora has been a contract lobbyist for the Kansas chapter of the Sierra Club for, I believe, 10 years, if I'm correct. And the Sierra Club is one of the oldest and largest grassroots environmental organizations dedicated to exploring and protecting our outdoors. And he is going to give us a presentation, I guess, on some of the issues here in Kansas that we want, or I guess his group wants to focus on here in 2021, 2022 legislation session, excuse me. And I do have State-elect Aaron Coleman with us to join in on the conversation. And I guess I'll start with letting Zack, start with, his presentation and what he wants to convey to everyone.
Yeah, hey, appreciate it, Gavin. Representative, great to be with you here tonight. Really appreciated the offer to come speak with your group, Gavin, the Wyandotte Progressives there. As you said, I've been a contract lobbyist for 10 years now, and hopefully I've learned a few things along the way.
Yeah.
With the new session coming up in early January is a new opportunity to get some things done. So I'm privileged to be the proud lobbyist for the Kansas Sierra Club, one of the oldest and largest environmental groups across the country. And I'll talk a little bit more about what we do here in Kansas. One thing that was on my mind before entering the conversation with you both, and something I think is important for us to address, is that we need to be pretty clear that if we're going to make any progress on policy issues, if we're going to put ourselves in a better spot to help other people out, we need to do everything we can in our power to help ourselves and help the world. And part of that is being respectful of each other, being kind. And so if, something I always learned at a young age, is that if we want to try to make environmental progress, care for the environment, we need to care for each other as humans too. So I thought before we go any further, just because of the nature of the situation here with previous a cloud of controversy with violence against women and verbal and mental physical abuse potentially here, I just wanted to reiterate that Sierra Club doesn't support violence on any level. We don't support at all people. We certainly support values of nonviolence and being kind to all of us. And it's a major intersection of environmentalism, of women's rights, of social justice, racial justice, compassion and peace for all people. It extends to the ecosystems too. So we need to do that within our own lives. There's been a lot of previous problems, in our current political environment with problems with humanity right now. And so I just wanted to offer that before we go any further, that we take an oath to ourselves, to our peers, to friends, family, strangers, to those who we consider opponents philosophically, whatever, that we do the best to approach life, to approach each other with kindness and respect in the spirit of nonviolence.
Definitely. I think we all can agree on that for sure. I don't know, Aaron, do you want to speak on that at all?
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me here, Gavin, and thank you, Zack, for starting this off. I absolutely, I would join your pledge in nonviolence. I do admit previously having a lapse of judgment, but I cannot allow my shame and guilt to stop me from doing everything within my power to fight for and serve my constituents. And if the voters thought I was unfit to serve, then they would have elected the other guy. And at the point, this is a democracy, and if the people pick me to be the representative, then I'm going to be the representative, and I'm going to keep my head down and do my homework and not try to get any more headlines for a while. But these people elected me, and I'm gonna do the job. So I appreciate having this conversation tonight.
Definitely. And so I think we're gonna start off. I think Zach's kind of got a presentation he wants to give, and then afterwards we'll field some questions for him, and try to expand maybe the conversation a little bit. So I guess I'll just leave it to you, Zach, and kind of let you give us your spiel, I guess, as they'd say, right?
You bet. Hey, go ahead and enable the screen share if you would.
Oh
And
man.
I'll get that lined up. Hey, just appreciate that pledge, Representative, and I hope you
Oh man.
you know that talk is cheap, right? Actions speak louder than words. So looking forward to your earning a better reputation for yourself and all that. And certainly excited to talk about environmental issues with y'all tonight, but we can't achieve justice for the environment without having a respect for each other, and acknowledgement of the appreciation for all the people that make this movement possible. So how's that for queuing up the enabled
Yeah.
rights for the screen share?
I
Keep
think.
working on it.
Yeah. I think I said it. I'm horrible with Zoom. I haven't used this enough. I think this is
You
multiple
got it.
participants. Okay, good. I feel bad. I'm like a tech guy, so I should know this, but yeah. Oh, nice.
Okay, here we go. Slide show begin.
Yeah. Oh, now everyone's going to stare at us the whole time.
Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, how's that look?
I think it looks fine. Yeah.
Can you see the whole screen, or do you see the everything involved with us on the side? I'm curious.
I actually just see.
See our pictures and video.
I can
Okay.
move that though, but yeah, I see your main slide, and then it shows me the next slide.
Oh,
Yeah.
hey, no sweat. This is fine. I think this will be just fine. Yeah, this is just my little cue slide. I'll go ahead and go to the next slide.
Yeah, definitely.
So just for those that aren't aware, the Sierra Club is a group of fine folks. I think proud to represent them. We got about 5,000 members across the state. Our mission is to explore, enjoy, and protect the wild places of Earth, to practice and promote responsible use of the Earth's ecosystems and resources, and to the earlier point, to educate and enlist humanity to protect and restore the quality of natural and human environment. We've stepped out on supporting racial justice as we've seen the events unfold. For Black Lives Matter. We've been stepping up in the midst of the pandemic to try to do things to keep our members and supporters safe during the pandemic. And we try to do a number of things across the state. We hike. We have an outings program. We educate people on energy, water, land issues, a number, anything that touches the environmental intersection, we're probably on it. And so we lobby, we organize, we canoe. If you care about the environment, the Sierra Club is a good place to find some common ground there. Kansas.sierraclub.org, and certainly would it interest anybody willing to join us right now. Certainly could use all the help we can get. You heard my spiel about supporting nonviolence. Of course, one of the things I didn't say is to use lawful means to carry out these objectives. That's very important with us. We think that kindness and respect, kind of common roots of where we start to organize together for change, to help the environment. And if we showed that caring, if we brought that out of our souls and shared it more, by smiling to people as we come across them, to cherishing the sounds and of nature and the sights of nature, maybe we'd be better off as far as having a practice behavior that would benefit the environment more often if we showed caring to the ecosystems, but to ourselves as well. But I'll say the primary purpose of me coming on is to talk about the Kansas legislative session, and happy to talk about that. It's going to be a different legislative session unlike any before, right? Because we're in a different time, unlike any before in the United States history, or at least pandemic-wise in 100 years or so. And so there's going to be some changes. The state government is already talking about how they're going to try to conduct a coherent, beneficial legislative session in 2021. Starts second week of January, but the process begins right now as far as policy formulation, ideas, talking with your legislators, making sure that they know as constituents what you support and what you're hoping they can accomplish this year. For a number of legislators across the state of Kansas, it's going to be their first time up there. I counted about 30-some percent of Kansas senators will be first timers, and then about 22% of the Kansas House, by my calculations, will be first time legislators. So that's some new blood in there, and so that's new perspective. Of course, hopefully we've got to a new perspective as far as the legislative session and how, as a people of Kansas, we have more in common, and we need to put aside political differences to try to help the state and the people out, especially during these trying times. We covered a little bit from the economic drop that we've seen early in the spring as the pandemic began, but we're still not there yet. We're looking at a little bit of a surplus in the budget for this fiscal year that ends at the end of June, but we're looking at a budget deficit in the fiscal year after that, beginning in July and carrying on to next year. So what we have right now is a political makeup that isn't too different than in years past. We have 39 Democrats, and the rest of the balance of the 125 are Republicans. So that's a super majority there in the House, as well as the Senate, where we have 11 Democrats and 29 Republicans. And so that's not enough to withstand, if just voting on party lines, to withstand to back a veto by the governor. So it'll be a little bit different session as far as the political dynamics involved. We saw election cycle that got more of the quote unquote moderate legislators beat out by a little bit more bold, especially on the Republican side, more conservative legislators. And so the makeup is a little bit different, maybe in philosophy wise, but certainly the context has changed with the pandemic and with issues that will help out not just the economy, but the quality of life for the people of Kansas. Of course, it's really important that we're getting some training right now, Gavin,
right,
and
for sure.
Representative, that we're getting some virtual training, right? And so we can still engage with legislators in a virtual way. So thanks for having me and hosting the program.
Definitely.
So I just want to say a little bit of that, but then I want to jump into environmental issues. One of the biggest environmental issues, I'll go ahead and stop sharing for a little while. One of the biggest environmental issues is maybe an economic recovery, because in order for people to really have a better impact on the environment, in my view, as far as providing for some programs out there, we're going to need some state leadership and some good voluntary tools in the toolbox to help the citizens get there. And so I think there should be public-private partnership that can help for economic stimulus. And one way that we can do that is with clean energy. Okay, with some of the other sectors of the economy, agriculture, aviation, manufacturing, they've had ups and downs, right, over the last decade. But really, clean energy in Kansas and predominantly wind has been an economic positive for the state, steady through and through. We're talking about billions with a B of investment into Kansas for wind energy, including thousands of jobs, construction jobs. You know, someone's got to build these turbines, lay the concrete so they can be set up and all that. We got to have people maintain these wind energy systems. And then, you know, just keep an eye on how we deal with this energy infrastructure going forward, setting up programs with the local governments, et cetera. So that's all good. And all this is to help address greenhouse gas emissions that I got on the screen. But just one reason why we're so set on improving wind energy and renewable energy in general in Kansas. As you can see there in the economic sector, about a third of it is electricity, about a third of it is transportation, and then you got industry and agriculture filling the rest there. And those are a little outdated data in 2017, but it still rings pretty true. If I can go to my previous slide, that would be great. I'm clicking left. There we go. Okay. So can you see this? I wish I could make a screen a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So part of the energy transition in Kansas is just saying, basically, we want to try to use less Wyoming coal. You know, pay Wyoming and their companies for their coal to come down and burn in Kansas. That provides pollution, the health impacts, adds greenhouse gases, etc. So why don't we just use Kansas-based energy? We're one of the top states for wind. And 20 years ago, we were 80% dependent on coal. And for the first time this year, Kansas, in terms of energy generated in our state, passed coal. So that's the first time in our history in the state that we've used more wind energy for electricity than coal. It's pretty exciting times. And of course, the jobs, the economic investment go with it, the community benefit, et cetera. But we could be doing the same with solar. We haven't even scratched the surface of solar. I think we have, just a small amount of solar right now, but experts in renewable energy sector say that we'll have more solar output in Kansas than wind in a short amount of time, 20, 30 years. So that's pretty amazing, especially given the sense that we have such a robust wind energy resource and a developed industry here in Kansas. So it's interesting. So I put up a little graphic here and saying we need state leadership to make this a priority. In the past, the state legislators have been pretty positive of wind energy, and that's been good, obviously, because it's jobs and economy first. It's a robust, diverse energy mix that'll help our state succeed. And so, we can do some things from a state leadership end, but we can also do something I like to talk about and will be an important legislative topic for 2021, which is called securitization. I like to call it utility asset refinancing. Okay, what this does is it says, instead of having to pay off these really expensive investments that we made in the past on coal and the technology to make coal clean when it's really not, we owe the utility a lot of money and their shareholders a significant interest rate, 8-9% interest rate on this investment that they made on coal plants in Kansas. We got about 9 coal units still left in Kansas. We owe them a lot of money still. It's not really helping us out. Kansas is one of the highest electricity prices of any of our states around us. And so what we could do, and wind and solar right now is cheaper than keeping our coal plants running. Oh, by the way, we're only running our coal plants at about half the capacity of what they are, which is interesting. So we're not even really getting the full use of our coal plants in Kansas. Why? Because it's expensive, because it's dirty, because wind and other technology can really help us out. So what we're going to do is says, hey, we're going to cut our losses. What we're going to say, you don't get this 9% return on an investment that's not used or useful right now. What we're going to say is, We'll pay you some of that back by doing a ratepayer-backed bond. As customers, we'll pay the bond back on some of that previous investment. We're going to cut that interest rate down significantly, and we're going to take those savings from the interest rate and the capital because of the cheaper electricity and try to put that into lowering electricity prices in Kansas, but also investment in the energy that'll take us 20 to 30 years out, create outstanding economic benefits for the state of Kansas, and be a more resilient electrical grid in the process. More just, more equitable. We can get community solar in people. We can get energy efficiency for low income and housing. So they don't have to worry about a high energy burden as far as part of their electricity bill, etc. So I know that's pretty long-winded on just one issue, securitization, but I expect it to be a big topic this year. And the good thing is this year, guess what? We got the biggest utility in Kansas starting to warm up to the idea and buy into this. Couple past years, they've been hesitant to go under this, but they've looked internally and their shareholders have spoken up saying they want clean energy for the future. So the biggest utility now has a goal of 85% carbon reduction by 2030. You guys know what their previous goal was?
Oh man, I can guess it's pales in comparison, I'm sure. Like
80% by 2050.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear 2050, I'm like, we'll be old men by then, and what our kids are gonna be dealing with the repercussions of that.
Right.
And it just, that's crazy.
It's good. It's a good kind of change of mind for them, and we need to work as advocates, do everything we can to support that, as long as it's just and equitable. You know, we don't want rates to skyrocket even more than they are. We want people to have affordable, clean energy.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then don't get me started. Energy storage is the next frontier.
Yeah,
of the
and
energy
actually,
system.
that I've seen that can be that kind of seems like that's one of the hard parts, because batteries, are kind of expensive. That's where solar panels are relatively cheap per se, but then when you get into storing that energy that you've gathered, that's where the real, I guess, crux of the problem is, to a degree, which I'm sure you know more about that than me, but yeah.
Well, I mean, hey, you're onto something, Gavin. I'll just say that, battery storage isn't the only energy storage.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important to keep in mind. Yes, batteries can be expensive, but there are other forms of energy storage. We can pump, one of the oldest forms is pumping water up the hill, then let it come back down the hill and spin a turbine.
Yes.
That's kind of age-old technology. But now we got stuff where we can do compressed air down in the ground, take wind energy and put power compressed air down the ground when we need it, have it come back out and spin a turbine for clean electricity, some of those things. So
nice.
There's some other projects I'll tell you about solar and storage. Kansas is on track to have the biggest solar plus storage operation in the country, 500 megawatts for the energy wonks out there near Gardner, Kansas. NextEra Energy Resources is doing that project. It's really exciting. And so here in the heartland, in the middle of America, we can do something that pioneers energy infrastructure for the future right now, and we can really change a lot of things, whether in the energy system, how much we pollute for electricity, but also for transportation. If we get renewable electric vehicles, and all of that changes a lot in terms of using fossil fuels. There's a lot that's exciting, a lot we could talk about here, but I just thought that this would give us a kind of a good overview of the energy system. We'll be making sure this year energy efficiency will be a top issue. Securitization, utility asset refinancing will be a top issue. Thinking about how we can improve our energy infrastructure, I'm sure will come up, and all this it really goes into how do we get affordable, clean energy for all people equitably. So it's a good goal. I know it's something the governor has expressed interest in the past too. So I mean, stay tuned, get involved, get engaged. We'll talk a little bit more about that here pretty soon, and we'll certainly want to advance some of these issues forward.
And so Zach, so I was wondering, can you go back to the previous slide?
Sure.
Yeah. So a big problem I was seeing is like home consumers, like residential housing. Only 2% of houses have like renewable energy on their properties. And I was looking into this. Like the problem is batteries, like we were talking about, are extremely expensive. What do you think about if somebody puts a solar panel on their roof? What if they can hook that up to the electricity grid when they're not using that electricity? What if they can sell that electricity back to the utility company, and like get a utility credit for it? They can use that. You can use the credits at night.
Yeah, good question, and thanks for bringing this up. You're right. There is a huge gap in affordability right now, with people being able to afford solar panels in their home or business. And I think, what we see trending wise, the price of renewable energy, especially solar, is coming down extremely fast. So stay tuned. I expect the same thing with energy storage technologies as well, battery, as you mentioned. But yeah, there is a real equity problem with clean energy right now in terms of being able to get engaged with it. Now, I tell you what, it's part of the problem is our policy right now in Kansas. We have a regulatory policy in Kansas that allows the utility to charge people more per energy use, penalize solar. And right across the border to our east, there's a government that embraces solar, provides rebates for people to cut down on their cost and incentivize solar. The same utility has a different solar plan on the Missouri side than they do the Kansas, where they charge you a lot more and put you on a different scheme. You have until right now, until the Sierra Club and others sued in the Kansas Supreme Court and finally won. The utility got away for putting these demand charges on. That'll change. Hopefully our regulatory commission that regulates energy will give us a good system going forward, so people aren't penalized, but actually provide an incentive for solar. And hey, it's not just for people putting the solar to save energy costs on their home, right? It's about helping out the installer, so creating a job. You talked about community solar, Aaron, and so that's one thing. Right now, the utility sells someone's electricity that they come up with solar on their house for like 5 or 6 times more to their neighbor at a retail cost. They only pay you a couple cents, per a measure of energy for how much you produce. Okay, and they sell it for 5 times more to your neighbor who's not using. It's the same electricity, right? It's just coming from someone who produces it themselves, so that we don't have to build another power plant, to help with energy demand if we have a distributed energy generation across the state. So anyway, don't get me started on too much. We need to reward solar. We need to give people access to solar community programs. We also need utility scale, where the utility has solar farms, wind farms, etc. But certainly home solar. Energy efficiency. They have energy efficiency programs, but a number of people in Kansas rent. I'm a renter, right? So if my landlord says no, then I don't really have any option for a solar panel or energy efficiency. Well, this might provide where, hey, the landlord can get an opportunity to have energy efficiency. I just pay the bill pay the bill to help with some of those upgrades, but I won't pay more. I'll pay the same or less to help with those upgrades. So anyway, that's a lot, for a high level presentation. I just want to keep things pretty general and basic, but it's a pretty exciting time, and hey, we got a new president coming in. New president has a number of different jobs ideas, including retrofitting 4 million buildings across the country, and prioritizing energy efficiency, to expanding renewables across America for a jobs and investment type of deal. So, stay tuned. It won't just be Kansas. It'll be across the country, but Kansas is uniquely suited. I can't stress that enough to take advantage of some of these things.
And not to interrupt, but what you were saying about homeowners, having to pay more for their solar. I bought a house here in Wyandotte County about 2 years ago, and I was really looking into, putting solar panels on my house. I probably would have tried to, do it myself for, as much as I could. But then as I researched more, I realized I'm not going to save any money. I'm actually going to be paying more. And so when you were talking about that, I was like, yeah, exactly. And there's one person who would have went solar, but because it's not really cost effective really right now. And so it's, financially it's not really doable, especially with, student loans and all sorts of other things, you're paying for. So anyways, yeah, totally agree with that, on, just having to pay more for something you think would actually save you money. So.
Hey, so Zach, if we have so many problems with these monopolized for-profit utility companies, what would your thoughts be on doing what they have in maybe in Nebraska, where the utility company is all publicly owned, and getting the money motive out of it, and just let people have electricity without having to go cold or get the utilities shut off?
Yeah, so there's a kind of an ongoing debate about whether some sort of cooperative system or a public power or deregulation, whatever you want to say, would be beneficial to the state. There's pros and cons, right? One thing about having an investor-owned utility is that they can gain capital from investors, and there's a number of substantial investors that can put up the money to some of these upgrades, like a transformative energy infrastructure. They have the capital for that stuff. Whereas, if it's a public power thing, you're asking the government or you're asking the people of the state to reach into their pockets, go into debt, whatever you want to say, for some of these upgrades. So, there's pros and cons. Certainly, the for-profit thing is a concern. While people been disconnected, their power's been shut off during this pandemic, right? The utilities been making profits. They're making millions upon millions of profits every year, whereas the people of Kansas have been having to pay higher electricity rates over the past decade. So I mean, hey, it's good question, interesting discussion. I just say, given the situation where we made a kind of a social contract to go forward with a monopoly utility, that they provide efficient, sufficient service to people of Kansas at affordable rate. The bargain is that they're going to hold true to those things, act in our best interest. And so, we need to try to keep encouraging them to do that. And if, they'll get blinded by the money and a little bit beholden to the shareholders as opposed to the people, then that causes a concern for people to echo in front of the regulation, their legislators, et cetera, regulators and legislators, et cetera. So anyway, good question.
Yeah.
How about, can I go on to one of the other issues?
Oh, of course, yeah, continue on. We don't want to slow you up a little bit.
Okay,
Yeah,
hey, good questions, and I appreciate the dynamic feedback here. But I'm really itching to talk about another issue.
Definitely.
One of the biggest industries in Kansas is agriculture, right?
Definitely.
And what we saw both in agriculture and in food systems, and also, everything from manufacturing in Kansas, is that, our reliance on the global systems have really it kind of put us in a predicament when it came to the pandemic, right? We weren't able to get a lot of the protective equipment that we relied on other countries to make for us. When things shut down because we couldn't get food from this place or that place, out of our state or out of our country, appliances. I was set to get a new refrigerator, replace my old one, and I'm not the only one, but a lot of people had to wait a long time, like way longer, months longer, if they're still waiting, to get that appliance that's made in Korea or whatever, so that just kind of revealed to me that we need to do more to be more resilient as a state, as a country. So you're hearing more about, let's make it in the USA, but let's do it here in Kansas. We import about 90% of our fruits and vegetables. For an agricultural state that's top 10 in, beef, wheat, corn, we produce a lot of crops, a lot of animal livestock, but we can't produce something as basic as fruits and vegetables in our own agriculture state for ourselves. Shame on us. We're losing out on a lot of economic opportunity there. Hundreds of millions of dollars. We're missing out on healthy foods that can be grown by our farmers for our community. Okay. So, and part of doing that is creating healthy soil practices. So before I get into carbon farming, I just want to say, when we got a budget surplus this year and we got Republicans in control of the legislature, what do we think about, right? If you got more money in the state budget, what's one thing that your mind immediately goes to?
Oof.
Taxes. Cutting taxes, right? The government budgets, we got more money coming in the government. Let's give that back to the people. Let's cut the taxes. I understand right now, especially right now, people could use a break on their taxes, right?
Definitely.
Here's who couldn't use a break: corporations, right? We don't want more taxes be cut for the rich and the well-off and our corporate entities in Kansas. We have one of the highest sales tax on food in the country here in Kansas. Especially in a pandemic where people are not going to as many restaurants, but having to spend more money at the grocery store, more of our dollar, I'd argue, is going towards that sales tax on food. And for low income people, moderate income, that is a substantial, that's a regressive tax policy first off, but that's a substantial tax on more proportionally for the lower income you are.
Oh,
Fair?
I totally agree. Yeah, no. I'm always jealous of my friends in Oregon are like, oh, I didn't have to pay any sales tax on my food. And I'm just like, why are you telling me that?
It's like,
they're not the only place, but it's my example for sure.
I'd be curious to ask your friends in Oregon how much of the fruit and vegetables that they produce in their state goes to people in their own state, or
I'm
and
curious
how much
myself,
they export
yeah.
to other states. I bet there's some stuff from Oregon that come to our state for us to buy in the grocery store. So,
not to be off topic, but I hear they throw
Yeah.
away a lot of unsightly fruit too, and vegetables and stuff. So that's kind of another thing is things that don't look presentable, they just throw away, but it's perfectly good. You're gonna chop it up and put it in your salad or make a whatever with it. So, but anyway, that's
hey, that's another. Have me back on. We can talk more about that.
Oh, for
down
sure,
the road.
for sure.
Absolutely, food waste. And talking about things that you can do, and I want to make sure we include that in is that taking responsibility for our own actions. Try not to waste food in our own kitchens and all that stuff. Use less energy, conserve water, all that stuff we should be doing, buying mindful things, supporting our local businesses, supporting ethical businesses, all that stuff locally, all that's really important. So don't let me skip over that. But
sure.
No, there is an opportunity to reduce the sales tax on food. One point I bring up, that could cost the state if we totally eliminated the sales tax on food in the neighborhood of $400 million of revenue lost every year, is what I'm told by the estimators in the state government. I'll tell you what, if we eliminated the sales tax at farmers markets, okay, farmers markets, right, local, homegrown, often healthy and sustainably grown food, eliminated that sales tax, $250,000 million, $250,000. So we should do that right away. Get rid of the sales tax on food, encourage people to buy from their local producers and the local food systems. That's something we could do right away. That'd get more people, if we eliminated sales tax, in my opinion, out to the farmers markets, or have people sign up for direct sales, cooperative, CSA, community supported agriculture agreements and all that stuff. So, hey, that's all good. But one thing that also could benefit farmers is this carbon farming. This is this notion. Oh, I pulled up the chat. I didn't mean to do that.
No
The notion that farmers should get rewarded for healthy soil practices and sequestering the carbon that goes up in the air and put it back in the soil where it can be productive. Okay, it uses nature's system of respiration to our advantage. Photosynthesis, I think. Respiration is what humans do, right? So sometimes get that
Yeah.
confused. So anyway,
worries.
photosynthesis, right? Take the carbon and then put it down in the soil. So mycorrhizae, fungi, the soil organisms down in the roots that create the carbon-rich soils, etc. We can do that in a number of different ways. Reduce tillage, improve crop rotations, polyculture, which is using more than one crop on the land, going organic, land restoration, nutrient management, all that stuff. All that's really important. And I know that the federal government is thinking a lot about this. A number of farm groups are really interested in this. So there was a bill introduced last year that said for some of these carbon farming practices that farmers could get a cut on their income tax. This is something they should be doing probably anyway as a good business, and many businesses are, but it costs money to put a cover crop seed on your crop. Sometimes you don't have the equipment to do some of these organic practices, et cetera. So, working together amongst the state to try to get some more carbon farming initiatives going, I think would be really helpful to the farming community.
So is this like kind of like reintroducing like prairie grass and stuff like that to, farming areas kind of thing?
Yeah, so there is some of that. Absolutely. Marginal farmland, let's put back into conservation land. Absolutely. Allowing for grassland ecosystems can help with the carbon situation, but also helps with habitats. I got here a little picture of the monarch butterfly, or state butterfly.
Haven't seen one of those in a while.
Population has gone down significantly over the past few decades, but a part of that is because we're putting poison on the land to help with weeds. Well, it gets into pollinators that go on those plants, or the plant's not around for those pollinators to thrive on, etc. So, part of the situation, we need to focus on controlling invasive weeds, like our noxious weeds. I got the picture of the thistle here. But we also need to control our control methods for some of those, harmful chemicals. Drift is an issue for private property rights. If you're my neighbor, Gavin, and I spray my farm, well, there's no reason why those chemicals should drift onto you and your farm. That's not right from a private property standpoint.
Definitely.
So that's something we're working on to try to get kind of a cooperative agreement amongst farmers, better record keeping, better research and all that, so people don't have to face those problems. Because, hey, if your grapes die because of my chemicals, Roundup, 2,4-D I'm putting on my plant, you're out of luck the next 3 years because you spent all that time growing your grapes. You're just trying to provide some wine to your community. So anyway, all those things. It's interesting. Honey and bee growers and all those things. There's some significant issues going on. So let me just pause there. I know that's a lot. We need to do something about the amount of irrigation that we do in the Ogallala Aquifer and the High Plains Aquifer is decreasing at a rapid rate. We've decreased the High Plains Aquifer across a few states as much as water is in one of the Great Lakes, Lake Erie. That's just really amazing to imagine. If you've ever seen Lake Erie, think about all that water we drained under our soils. We used to have a lot more perennial streams in western Kansas. A lot more places are facing dire straits in terms of the water availability. We got other water issues going on. 85% of our water is used by 15% of the state's farmers. Okay, so not everybody in Kansas is a farmer, right?
Oh, for sure.
So shrink that pie to just farmers. 85% of the state's water is used by a small fraction, 15%.
And that's all going to like monocropping, basically, right?
Corn.
Corn, all the corn.
primarily corn and beans in semi-arid climates in western to southwestern Kansas.
Definitely.
So, hey, if water is a state resource, right? If water is important to Kansas as a whole, then maybe those irrigators that use a enormous amount of water should have something, as far as some sort of accountability, some sort of pay into maybe some of the water programs. At the very least, we need a little bit more cooperative agreement in those areas to save water for the future. We can still grow those crops with a fraction less water with smart technology and just conservation practices. So, like you said about returning some land to conservation, if something really doesn't grow all that good without an enormous amount of water, let's put that into something that will thrive there without much water.
No, that makes complete sense. Yeah. Yeah. What's up, Aaron?
And so, Zach, so what do you think about what if we could give farmers a tax credit to grow like prairie grass? Like if they grow this many acres of prairie grass, we'll give them this much in tax credit for just turning the land back to prairie grass. They'll get money for the land. What do you think about that?
I think it's a smart idea. I mean, I think where government really is good, I think, is in saying, hey, what are some incentives? What are some, accountability issues? I view government as a referee, and we need to blow the whistle on the extractive, exploitive economy that we've come up with. Whether it's pollution that people aren't having to pay for, that affects affects respiratory health, ecosystems, the climate, etc. They should be accountable for some of that. Likewise, if our agriculture is causing more soil erosion, causing fertilizers to go in the streams and lakes to cause algal blooms, it causes hardship for future generations in terms of water supply, that needs to be corrected. And I think the government needs to step up if the people aren't stepping up. I would like for the people to step up on their own voluntarily to do some of these things, but the government, their representatives and senators can help them in that process with good programs, tax policy, etc.
Definitely.
There's a lot more that the Sierra Club and environmentalists hope that we can accomplish. We need to do something about these oil and gas wells that are unplugged in Kansas, abandoned oil and gas wells, and they pose a threat to water resources. We were dealing with the earthquakes there from drilling and injection of the wastewater that comes up from fracking and all that. So there's a number of issues that are in play on the plate. What I say is where there's a will, there's a way, right? And so I think the more people that vocalize these issues, express environment as a top concern. And environment has a lot to do with jobs, the economy, with our health, and all those things. So I think there's some win-win scenarios. I would just say that, especially for maybe a progressives group, is that, given the ideology of our elected officials as far as less government, conservative principle, less government, not saying that, some don't really think environment's an important issue, but I would say a majority of all legislators, including Republicans, do. It's just the method of solving that. Is the government through these top-down issues going to be the ones to solve the issue, or could we leverage the opportunity for entrepreneurs, the private sector, to do something about it with the kind of government leadership cheerleading it on? So anyway, I'll just pause there, and maybe we can go to any questions or talk about something we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah, I'll let Aaron go first.
Yeah, so actually my first question is, this is something you kind of talked about at the beginning of your presentation, is, creating jobs, for renewable energy, so that's kind of similar to something like, like the Green New Deal, where it talks about, creating jobs for renewable energy and kind of just like, really changing the way we define our economy. So Do you think renewable energy and like solar panels and wind energy, do you think that could be a good source of jobs for people in Kansas City and Wyandotte County in like the next 5 or 10 years if we invest some like state money into that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's already proven in the wind sector, but we don't really have the opportunity for wind, in Wyandotte County, right?
Yeah.
True.
Big wind utility scale wind farms, right? Not saying there's not a chance, but just saying it's going to be harder to come by. What we need to really do, and it's already happening in Kansas City, is helping people save energy. Energy we don't use is the cheapest energy source, right? But in lieu of, if we try to do everything we can to help people seal their houses and buildings, better windows and light bulbs, all the, insulation, et cetera, we're doing that. Sierra Club is doing that in the inner city. But we could also do better with making sure there's affordable access to solar and community scale energy. The city officials of Wyandotte County could source from clean energy resources, and that would help out, rural Kansas and all that stuff. But it takes commitment from our leaders to do so. So absolutely agree. Green New Deal, it's tough. It's a tough sell in Kansas. The idea is just a resolution, right? But there was a lot of saying, hey, they're going to shut down airplanes. They're going to start putting diapers on the cows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the gases and methane come out through burps, so we're going to have to figure that one out. But no, it's none of that. Really, we're just trying to frame justice and social equity within infrastructure and economic renewal that comes in the form of transforming to a more eco-friendly society, right? So it's, there's been a lot of nervousness in Kansas, especially from kind of big ideas and United Nations agreements and all that to help with the sustainable development, all that. I just want to say, hey, if you boil it down, we're talking about helping people save energy. We're talking about helping transportation and our electricity sectors to use more Kansas-based clean energy, non-pollutant technology. All that's good stuff, and I think our time has come to doing something about it. We have to do something about it. The country needs to do something about it to help the world out, but we can help the country out like we do in helping with food for people, to help with provide clean source electricity to help people. So, all those things would be really good. Good question.
Yeah, definitely. Got any more for him, Aaron?
You want to take a turn cracking a question, Gavin?
Oh, man, you've done a really good job of kind of touching on everything I kind of wanted to ask. I wish I
got a question.
Yeah, no, go, Aaron.
What are the uses? Oh,
No, you're fine. The dog interrupts.
Yeah, a little intermission.
I actually put mine away so I wouldn't have that.
So my next question is, what are the uses for industrial hemp, and how could this reduce our environmental impact?
Yeah, so Sierra Club helped support the commercial hemp legislation just a couple years ago. It is a crop that Kansas has grown in the past with success, and could grow and continue to grow here without this what was just kind of short-sighted, unneeded restrictions, right? And so this is another way where if we cut some sort of regulation, give the people of Kansas some of these voluntary tools and organizations voluntary tools, then they will actually be able to prosper with some of those things. Industrial hemp has a number of uses. Fuel, fiber, can create hempcrete. That's one I really like. Instead of concrete, mix in some industrial hemp material in there to form a concrete for sidewalks and non-load bearing surfaces, all that stuff. Industrial hemp is just in its infancy in Kansas. but can provide a more opportunity for farmers as just another crop for people to utilize in their crop rotation, et cetera. There's also been some science that it helps repair the land, helps with soil erosion, helps with the remediation, phytoremediation, kind of, cleaning up the toxins of the soil, some of those things. So, there's a lot of opportunity for industrial hemp in Kansas, and I'd like to see more of that grown across the state.
Would the hemp help with the water conservation at all? Because I heard hemp is like more of a drought tolerant crop.
Yeah, so there's been mixed reviews across the country as far as if it uses a lot of water or saves a lot of water. When I testified the legislation, I said it. The reports that I saw was that it could use up to about 1/3 of the water that corn does. So
Wow.
I mean, there you go as far as water savings. But it kind of depends on what point in the process, because it does need water in certain points of the process, is my understanding. So I'm not a pro on this, but I'm just kind of a basic understanding of how the crop could work. But yeah, there's opportunity. It's not going to be a silver bullet, right? Nor is carbon farming necessarily a silver bullet. But when we put all these tools and kind of systems together, we can really create a really viable economic opportunity for farmers. And we need to do that because young people, our farmer population is growing in age all the time. I think it's age 60 is the average age of a farmer or something. And hey, we need to get young people, the next generation of farmers, on the land if they're not already. I think a lot of people would say, hey, you're right. We experienced the hardship of the pandemic, and food was hard to come by. We got people in huge lines across the country waiting for food. We should and could be growing that in our backyards for our community right now. And our farmers will step up. I know they will, but they need to have it work out economically. Otherwise, it's tough.
Definitely. You got any more questions, Aaron?
Yeah. So I know we've been talking about, putting a lot of responsibility, a lot of burden on the farmers to really conserve this water. But what's something like people like as individuals can do to conserve water? And is there anything that if everyone in Kansas did as a collective, like could it be enough to save the Western Kansas aquifer?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot that we can do in our own homes and our own use, right? Take shorter showers, right? Try to be conservative in your water use when doing your dishes, but and all that. So don't get me wrong there, watering our lawns, don't get me started on some of that.
I don't even do that, won't lie.
but it's a mindset thing. If we can, and this goes beyond policy, and kind of what I hinted at early on is that we need like a moral and cultural understanding before we get to policy progress, right? And so if we as a whole say, hey, we're going to set a goal for the state of Kansas to reduce our water consumption year after year, and we want everybody to do that, not just Gavin and Aaron and Zach to do it, but everybody to do it as much as they're able to, right? If we just take that upon ourselves to do that, if the industry takes it upon themselves and the farm groups, we'll be in a way better position than where we are now. I guarantee it. So I mean, there's things we can do. We could do some different things with tax policy and programs and all that stuff too. But if we're just talking about individuals, we'll just say, hey, let's make this a priority. Let's make sure that Kansas, especially Western Kansas, has every opportunity to be a vibrant and thriving community, and they can't do that without water. We all can't do that without water.
Oh, you're completely correct there. Well, I was going to say, I feel like we're kind of getting to the top of the hour, and so probably want to wrap it up. But I guess my really final question is, I guess, what's the best way do you think? Because like we were talking about with the legislation session being so new, and it is heavily Republican controlled. What do you think the best way for like individuals is to reach out and like express their concerns that we're talking about to the elected officials, to let them know like this is something we care about, like we would like them to actually push legislation that will, help Kansas, because, they're going to do what they think unless, the people speak up to a degree, I feel. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I guess what's the best way you think to reach out to them would be?
Yes. Hey, getting involved, politically, civic engagement, whatever you want to say, is my favorite question. Thank you for asking it, Gavin.
Oh, yeah. I saved it for the end, so.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, there you go. So, yes, I mean, hey, our civic duty doesn't stop. Democracy doesn't stop on election day or the days after election day in this case, right?
Yes.
It's an ongoing thing, and it's only as good by the people for the people our democracy is, right? So in order for it to work, we need to be plugged in, we need to be engaged, we need to participate in democracy, right? Not just a spectator sport.
Yes.
So we need to voice our opinions, as you're saying. We need to get to know our legislators, our representation, no matter what political party. Their duty is to represent us, right? And so our duty as people that are need representation is to make sure that they know what we care about. So I would immediately, if you haven't done it yet, and we're fortunate, I'm thankful, Gavin, that you brought our local representative on tonight's call, because they get to see and hear your ideas firsthand. But you need to send an email, write a letter, pick up the phone, put in a call, whatever you can do to meet and greet your legislator and tell them you wish them the best for success, because their success as far as representing the people of Kansas, the environment, our health care, our tax policy, their success is our success ultimately, right?
Oh, of course.
So we need to make sure that they know, hey, we want tax cuts on food. We don't want them for corporations that don't have to pay much for taxes anyway, especially for out-of-state corporations. Okay,
Definitely.
So there's that. Hey, we want to try to preserve the environment for current and future generations, and I think a lot can be done, a lot can be gained, jobs, quality of life, all that stuff. In the meantime, I think I believe pretty strongly in protecting people's own personal liberties and extending that to even private property. And I shouldn't be breathing harmful chemicals that are sprayed on my neighbor's land. Insert issue, frame it in a way that's saying you're here to help support them, support the issues that you care about. Okay. So get to know your legislators. Okay. Also get to know organizations that believe in your cause. If you're listen to us from Wyandotte County and you want to see progressive issues that you care about, talk to Gavin and get signed up with the Wyandotte Progressives, or if you care about the environment, contact me and join the Sierra Club, or a number of different groups that care about different things. If you feel strongly we need to do something about gun violence, join Everytown USA or Moms Demand Action or something like that. To reduce gun violence. Just figure out some of those advocate organizations so they can plug in. We got some experience on some of these issues, and we can say, hey, this is where your voice would really count. Or, hey, guess what? We're taking in comments to talk about solar policy right now. We could use your voice. Send in a comment. We could help you get there. So civic organizations are really important. Last but not least, just like we're here tonight, all of you paying attention out on the web, now or later, it's tough to talk about political issues, especially right now when things are so divisive. That's important. We started this conversation off and remind ourselves, in order to have a better future for all of us, it'll take all of us, and we need to be kind and respectful to all of us. Okay. And that's the only way we're going to really achieve long-lasting progress. And so we need to have those tough conversations with our friends and family, with people in a kind, deliberate manner, out of a place of kindness and compassion for one another. So if we do that, if we kind of change our attitudes, make sure our actions match our words, right?
Oh, of course.
Then we can achieve progress. Yeah. So anyway, thanks for all that. If there's anything else, certainly commenting to regulatory agencies, talking with your legislators, expressing your views in a kind, fair manner to your friends and family. Those are all things. Getting involved locally. Aaron Coleman wasn't happy with his representation, decided he was going to take it upon himself to go out and talk with the people in his community, saying he's going to provide them better representation, right? That's a commitment. And now you've been elected. That's the trust that those people and his whole district now are putting in him for a better future. He's got to live up to that. It's a tough job. I admire anybody who wanted to do public service, but it takes a lot. But there are people we're seeing now that's saying, okay, I got to get involved myself. I got to participate. That's not always running for elected office, but it can be. And, anyway, that was probably a longer answer.
Oh no, that was you know what, I was all you're all encompassing. I really like it. So yeah, no. Do you have some last thing to add, Aaron, before we I guess end this?
Yeah, so Zach, you said if people are more interested in getting active in environmental action, they hook up with you or the Sierra Club. How can people reach out to you or the Sierra Club if they want to connect with you?
Sure. You see my name up on the screen, Zack Pistora. I'm zackpistora@gmail.com. You can email me anytime. I'm not too hard to find. You can go to the kansas.sierraclub.org website and send a message to them. Say, hey, I'm excited to get involved, and we'll get back to you. Those are all ways. We got a Facebook page. I think we got a Twitter. So, just do your best to try to reach us, and we'll do our best to try to reach back. And then there was one other thought that I had. One of my mentors keeps reminding me that, sometimes leadership, I always say tough times teach you the most, and we're in a tough time right now. So take lessons learned and let's show our better selves to ourselves and our peers by helping you unite, not just across political spectrums, but just unite in common decency of people to rise to this occasion of overcoming this hardship, but being better off with those lessons learned. But also say that, sometimes our leaders of tomorrow will be the ones affected most by the problems today. Okay. And so, we really need to do everything we can to, there's some amazing women that are really leading the charge. You see the president is calling on the women for leadership roles where they never have before, because he knows that the opportunity is now for women to really have that most opportunity in leadership. And so I'll just do everything we can to center, women, people of color, other marginalized people, and put them front and center to get their ideas and perspective as we collaborate, because we need all of us to work together to achieve the common good. So anyway, that's just the last thing I said. Just as kind of something we need to remind ourselves, because in the past, some of us, organizations have benefited from white privilege and all that stuff in the past. We got to rewrite a new future for ourselves. So
I totally agree with that statement. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Well then,
thank you. Thanks for having me. That was the other thing.
Thank you, Zach. No, I'm really glad. I enjoyed your presentation. I want to thank you both for being on this. This is hopefully the first of many interviews. With other activists and civic leaders. So I appreciate both of you guys being here, and I guess we can call it a night, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you very much, Gavin. All the best to you.
Yep.
So thank you, Gavin, for hosting this, and thank you, Zach, for your presentation.
Yep, appreciate it. I will see you guys.
All right, see you.
Take care.